The sycamore tree. Welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is
Bryon Kazaska.
Hi, Bryon.
Hey, Ben. How are you doing this week?
Going good, going good.
This week we got a pretty substantial
We got
interview.
a Woodsman on the show this week.
Yeah.
Stewart Strauss. He is got a new website, StewartStrauss.net, and he's gonna has a new podcast. I always like the right time to talk to you, and I thought, hey, he's doing this stuff now. This would be a great time to catch up with him. We get to hear about what he's into, and we get to talk about Twin Peaks and him playing the Woodsman.
Yeah, so cool. So without further ado, we are here with Stewart Strauss. People might know him as one of the Woodsmen on Twin Peaks Season 3, but he's been in plenty of other shows and films. You just didn't know it. So happy we get to have you on the phone today.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. I certainly appreciate it. I'm glad to be here with you.
I was looking at your history, and I'm very interested in this. How did you go from being an engineer in broadcasting to getting these small, uncredited parts in TV and film?
Well, there's quite a few years in between. Yeah, and engineering, I studied all of that in school, but the intent was always to be either, a DJ, on radio, where you do all of your own engineering. I don't think I ever had an engineer, at least not for very long, And if you do overnights at a radio station, you might be controlling, up to 7 or 8 of them, or maybe more in some places.
Wow.
Because so many of them go into automation today.
Yeah.
So you just go in and take all the check all the, stuff for the FCC and all of that, which was a daily thing. But how do you make the transition? I've always been a creative. I don't know. And it doesn't have to be acting. It doesn't have to be music. Almost anything that calls on your creativity, and especially things that have some level of physicality to them, hands-on, which engineering certainly does, DJing certainly does, spinning vinyl certainly does, so any of those things, or a whole lot more, and it's usually a happy camper, at least for some time,
It's funny because I did radio. I did college radio, and then Ben, he worked at the local community college that I did radio at, and that's how we met. And radio and TV has always fascinated both of us. And going into doing podcasting, it was just like the next logical step.
And it almost seems like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems the same for you in some ways. I think we'll talk more about it, but you got a podcast coming out.
Well, let me start with when I signed up. I went back to school for at least the second time in the late 80s at Pasadena City College here in Southern California. And a very, very renowned school for the television trade, more so than film, at least back in those days. You'd hardly walk into a studio, stage, post house where somebody didn't come out of PCC, quite good. So anyhow, while I was there taking broadcasting television classes, to learn how to run a TV show, work a TV show, the radio station was right next door, KPCC, which is an NPR affiliate here in Southern California. And being part of National Public Radio, they've got pretty high standards to live up to on a daily basis. So to let a student on the air, you really have to have done your homework, And back when I was there, it was all about big band and swing music, and basically the swing era. So I spent time interning for the program director who had a talk show, who did daily interviews with all kinds of different folks, authors, writers. Larry Mantle is who I'm talking about. And Larry Mantle's Air Talk. God, he's been on the air well over 30 years now.
Wow.
In public radio here. And which is quite an achievement in itself, just to stay in this market any length of time.
Yeah.
But Larry taught me a lot without necessarily, teaching me, just being in the room with him, for interviews, pre-interviews, that sort of thing. And then, my thing was on the air was music. And again, you had to be versed in it. So I probably spent a year and a half actually studying that era, listening to things and, digging deeper, because that's what I like to do. And, went back to, so I've got a, pretty wide gambit, when I'm DJing. I can, especially like at weddings, I can pretty much give you any era you want, and give the authentic, the real deal.
That's cool.
Man, that's pretty cool. Now, when you got into doing these uncredited roles, I was looking at your IMDb, and you've done so many. What was your favorite one?
Oh, that's just called being an extra.
I know. You reminded me of Ricky Gervais's Extras. Have you ever seen that show?
Oh, sure, of course.
Great.
Was there jealousy among the extras? Like, you got a speaking role, and you're like, they hated you the next day?
Sure. But if you get a speaking role, you're no longer an extra. Automatically, you're upgraded to, principal, or at least a supporting cast. And I've had a few of those, and other things, mostly music videos, things that I'm still not speaking in. So, and where I have spoken, it's either been cut, or the director didn't want to give me credit, or they didn't want to pay for it.
Oh.
Because, in television, and I'm not going to name names, but I will tell you this, a lot of shows do this.
Oh.
They will have an extra as a waiter, waitress, bartender. In my case, this last season, say on stage as a stand-up comic. And you'll be up there, and, you won't have any lines. There's no dialogue because you're not speaking, so you're just pantomiming. And silently, that's what that means, right?
Yeah.
You got a lot of extras. That's what that means, though. But anyhow, so you'll be up there, and the director might even ask you if you can say this, and then a higher up will say, no, you can't speak, or whatever it may be. You watch the show a couple months later, and they hired a voiceover guy to say whatever you were lip syncing, or at least lip syncing to what you were pantomiming.
Wow.
And if they can read your lips well enough. If not, then when your head is turned, and I've had this happen too, when your head is turned, and this happens a lot with waiters and waitresses, things like that, they'll come up to take an order at a table, and then you see the actors at the table, but then you'll hear a voice. What are you going to have? You don't actually see them say it.
Wow.
So, when your head's turned, when my head's been turned and things, you'll hear a voice come out of it that's not mine. It had, I had no awareness of the day of,
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, but that's common practice. I hate to say it, but it is.
Huh. That's very interesting.
For the... Yeah, I mean, it's,
I think it's crummy. I think it's terrible. They should.
Well, it's the way of the world.
Yeah.
It's, they don't have to pay you if they don't have to pay you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that's it. Or, or the golden rule. I was in the casino industry for quite a while, and poker dealer, casino shift manager here in Southern California as well. Different things. And I got to host different people as they'd come in. And Amarillo Slim, his real name I couldn't tell you. But he was a poker legend before poker was on, TV, and became, a social sport, or as big as it has been. But he was one of the real characters, famous people. He once told me he was in the club one night when I was maybe having a little peeved with the general manager. He was peeved with me. And just said, well, you got to remember the golden rule. And it's real simple. Those who make the gold make the rules.
It's sad but
treat
true.
others as you want to be treated, or treat others.
Yeah. Now, I've heard it a lot since. It's really those who have the gold make the rules.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that was Amarillo Slim.
Wow. Now, do you have any favorite moments from any of these films or TV shows?
Of course, so many. Well, let's see. I would say, Staying Alive. The very first time I worked as an extra, Sylvester Stallone was directing. This was early. Of course, it was John Travolta starring, and this was, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. This is when, if not for Quentin Tarantino in 1994, this movie was one of those things that might have sunk, Travolta. So, anyway, not great a movie. But it's on every year. But the part of it that was so much fun was that whoever was doing placement just kept using me. I was on the dance floor. I was at the bar. I was in the aisle. And when I was at the bar, I was maybe one of two people at the bar while Travolta was having a scene with the bartender. Things like that. So being in the action is, of course, I loved that. Warren Beatty came and visited the set, one day. So, as a newbie, on a film set, that was pretty impressive company to be around.
That's so cool.
And then time went on, 20 years went by before I really did another extra gig, although I was in Oh God, You Devil around the same time as Staying Alive. But 20 years went by. I'd been living in Tahoe. It was the second time I was living in Lake Tahoe. But primarily so I could ski. That was my thing for many years. But anyhow, while in Tahoe, they were filming the movie Smokin' Aces, directed by Joe Carnahan. And, long list of stars were in that one. And some people that became much bigger after that movie as well. But they kind of took over State Line, Nevada, where casinos were, and any area they were shooting in for a day or two. And you'd see the trucks, lined up along a 2-lane highway, against the lake. So anyway, they had an open call one day on the radio for a weekend, booking background from locals. And Tahoe was in an act. You don't move to Lake Tahoe to become an actor. Or a musician or an artist. Some people will argue with that all day long, but I left for those very reasons, for more diversity, more to get back to the heart of things. So, which I feel this is, not that it's the only heart, but you're going to get in a bigger city, especially LA, or New York or probably Chicago, and now I wouldn't doubt if in Detroit, New Orleans, and Atlanta too.
Yeah, I mean, even here,
making movies.
Where
are you guys?
We're in Connecticut, but they make movies in Massachusetts and Connecticut all the time. New York, and
yeah. Hey, I'm well aware of that. Especially some of the stuff in and out of Boston.
Yes. Yeah.
So, the whole world's a movie set.
Yeah. Nowadays it is.
There can be. Yeah.
We're gonna jump into some Twin Peaks stuff. So last year was the summer of Twin Peaks for us. But I kind of feel like last year was the summer of you as well, because you were on 2 shows back to back on Showtime. And I bet you a lot of people didn't even realize that guy is in both of these shows.
Right.
And
I'm dying up here.
I'm dying up here. So how did that make you feel to see your work back to back on Showtime for last summer?
Special. It was a great feeling when it was on last year. Sure. Now that only happened a time or two where I was actually in both shows on the same night, but it was exciting to say the least.
Yeah.
So and then Showtime actually made note of it, or put something out on Twitter around that time because. let's see, Robert Forster and Nicola Liberté were both in both shows. They were
Yeah.
each in one episode and outstanding in the episodes they were in. Robert Forster was in the pilot.
Yep.
And, quite dramatic. And actually, Kathy Moriarty played his wife in that. That was something to see between them,
Yeah.
And then Nicole played a groupie, like at a Hollywood party Led Zeppelin was putting on or something like that.
Huh.
And I won't really go into it, but that girl reached 2 or 3 levels in a 5-minute scene. It was that Daria,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, she's something.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? I watched it and didn't know that I was watching her. I didn't know that I was watching the same actress that played Daria. I hadn't met her yet, I don't think. No, I'm sure I hadn't. I had to go back and watch it again and say, oh, my God, that's her. That's Nicole.
Yeah. Because I've watched I'm Dying Up Here, and I don't remember her in either. So now I need to go back, too. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I think it was episode 5 or 6 of, season 1.
Yeah.
And Ari Grainer as Cassie is at this party, probably with Andrew Santino. I don't remember exactly. And she walks into this bedroom, and there's this girl laying there naked, waiting for the next rock star to walk in, more or less. It was kind of my impression. I mean, she's high and everything. Anyway, that was Nicole.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was her till after I saw credits and went back like a week later and said, wait a minute, that was her?
Isn't that something?
So, yeah, quite an actress. I mean, she really is. And a sweetheart, too,
Yeah, we've talked. I think I got to talk to her on the show, and she does. She has a small part in Twin Peaks too, and she's very memorable. I mean, I keep forgetting. I think she was only in 1 episode. Was it, or 2 episodes?
2. Yeah.
And
that had to be
I feel like it.
Really, only
I think it was only. I think
a couple episodes.
Yeah, she was only in the first couple, and then she gets killed off.
Right, but she's so memorable. Yeah. How did you get the part for Twin Peaks?
Well, it started with a casting notice on a subscription service that I use that a lot of people use here. It's an online service called Casting Networks, LA Casting. And they were looking for, it didn't say Twin Peaks at that point, but it just kind of said the character types, longer hair, facial hair, more middle-aged,
Yeah.
And character types. So I submitted, and I've submitted for probably 100 other things that had a similar description, if not the same description. And anyway, got a text back asking a little more info. And then they wanted to see a short video at this point saying hello to David. At this point, I'm sure I knew it was David Lynch.
Wow.
I wasn't clear that it was Twin Peaks, though. I think the word Woodsman may have been used, but I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
And there was a reference to Twin Peaks, but I thought that was only for the, uninformed, like if you didn't know who David Lynch was, here's something that he's done. So it wasn't clear, at least to me. Maybe I shouldn't say that because it might have been very clear to others. But anyway, they just wanted to see a quick little video saying your name and hello to David. And that's what I did. Less than 5 seconds. Took me a few takes, but I wanted to just keep it very, very simple, down to earth, staging. That was it. Sent it in and got the gig. So
cool.
That's basically how it was. Yeah. Then found out soon after what we were doing. Everything was a deep, dark secret from that moment on, So.
Did you get a script? I mean, when you were...
No,
never.
Not once.
Wow.
Nor would I ever need one.
Yeah, so it was really just David saying, okay, I want you to do this, I want you to do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I usually do anyway. I rarely get a script. If it's a one-on-one scene, I mean, I've had scenes in the last, with lots of folks, from, Susan Sarandon to Gary Sinise and, the Kay Walsh, Dave Bluncourt, lots of people one-on-one. And I never looked at their scripts.
Yeah.
They've never, I don't need it usually. all I need is a little pretense, where we're going, and hopefully a rehearsal. I mean, please give me a rehearsal, a chance to at least see where they're going, and I'll go with them, But
and did David Lynch give you a rehearsal? Did he give you that?
Oh yeah. Dave, definitely. We always rehearsed, which I totally, like I say, to me, that's all I really need.
Yeah.
A little better understanding, but I don't need more than that. And in most cases, I've had a few maybe that, I could have used a little more than that. But we just usually wing it. But that's, part of my skill maybe is that the improv and, fairly, you don't think, you just do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I mean, it's really the rule of improv.
Yeah.
You just respond, and hopefully they like your response. And if they don't, that's the beauty of a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, that's a little over the top," or "We need you to be more over the top,"
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. And hopefully I get it the second time, and they commit it to film or tape or digital chip, and off to the races. So like I'm doing here, same thing, never had a script or anything else. They might do, for one scene, they might do 3 or 4 different setups with 2 or 3 cameras, which means they're going to move those cameras around, and each time they do, the lights and, filters, everything has to be moved, microphone, make it look like they, like there isn't that stuff isn't on the set, right?
Yeah.
Standard movie making or filmmaking. But what I'm getting to is, and a lot of shows, a lot of directors do it that way, commercials even more so. What I'm kind of getting to is with David, with Clint Eastwood, with, I'm told with Woody Allen, I've never worked with him, but I have worked with these other guys. And even Tom Hanks, one take. If they like what they get the first time, there isn't a second.
Wow.
And with David, there was never more than 3 takes in anything I did with him. We did 3 takes, so. And Clint Eastwood, same thing. 1, 2 takes, you're done. Next, moving on.
So there was multiple Woodsman. Were you like a number? Like, were your Woodsman number 1, or like how did they differentiate you?
No, nothing formal, and we had none of us had any idea when or where or how these scenes would appear, and we were all so I was certainly wrong. The only other person I knew was Christian Calloway. We'd worked together before Twin Peaks. We were thinking like what we did in part 17 in the sheriff's office when Lucy shot Bad Coop. We come in, and Bob gets removed. Then Freddie comes in with his green glove. Of course, we didn't know anything about any of that. But I kept thinking in the beginning, because I didn't know anything about Dougie or Bad Coop, I kept thinking that was going to be like in the 2nd or 3rd hour, 4th hour, 5th hour.
Oh, wow.
And then realized after a while, no, that's not coming for a while. This Dougie is here to stay, And,
that's how we felt week to week, or I know I did.
Yeah. We didn't know what was going on. We're like, yeah.
Yeah. So, the jail scene, which was me, in part 2, but also seen, in the premiere, I had no idea when that was going to be used, if it would be used at all.
Wow.
And where it was supposed to be. I never knew we were in North Dakota,
Yeah.
I certainly remember, it's a day I'll never forget, being in the actual location, which I don't think it's a secret anymore, but you guys know where that was? I know a lot of the fans, go on tours of these things.
Yeah, a lot of fans. There's been photos of that jail cell. I don't know.
Well, it's a lot. I'm just going to come right out with it. It was the Los Angeles Police Museum, which is in South Pasadena. A lot of people do know that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I don't think it's a secret anymore.
No.
And we've all seen it by now. So, it's a really cool place, and it looks very much the way it did. At least those jail cells look dark, musty, dingy. So, and then add the lighting and what David and the crew did with it, and, quite eerie, right?
And it's you, though, too. I mean, you brought this presence and this kind of like this mystery, and it was kind of horror. I mean, it's kind of like spooky. It's like, whoa, what just happened? And then I'm sure this is something that they do. Of course, after post, your head floats away,
and we're all
Of
perplexed.
course, I didn't know that was coming at all.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I mean, even just leading up to it, just seeing myself in the jail cell at all before I disappeared, just the fact that I was there in David Lynch's world, in Twin Peaks, I was ecstatic. I was elated. I was so relieved. I had so much anxiety leading up to this because, everyone that knew, that was in it or involved, all said that this is kind of what happened, was going to happen. But, I've heard a lot of things in Hollywood, right up to this last weekend. People always talk. It doesn't mean much.
Right.
So after a while, it's kind of in one ear and out the other. If something comes to something, fantastic, So in this case, it came in spades, It's been off.
And so, like, they kind of, you're in all black, your face is all black, and, like, what do you make of all that? Like, what do you make of...
First of all, my jacket was more a tan color. I was wearing a torn-up sweater underneath that, kind of a khaki green work pants and hiking boots. And even the hat, nothing on my face was blackened other than the appearance of the makeup. There were many layers of makeup, and only, some of it was black. I mean, I think there was probably black mascara in there and stuff like that. But it wasn't as black as you think.
Interesting. That's something.
Yeah.
So when you're playing this character, do you think, I'm playing a man, or am I playing a monster, or what is your interpretation of this Woodsman?
I didn't give it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
I mean, what I do is once I was in makeup and wardrobe, and the first day and night of that was in the desert, in Part 8. That's the first thing we actually filmed as Woodsman in Southern California. So that was October 29, 2015, right?
Cool.
Wow.
So that's when that was actually filmed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That one night, where the cars are on the dark road, and, Robert's saying his line, got a light, so anyhow.
And why does Robert get a line and not you? Like, what?
Oh, goodness. Come on.
And especially because you were a DJ, so you would have been perfect for it.
Oh, well, I mean, it was, look, I'll tell you that story as briefly as I can. There were 4 of us that night. There was Christian Calloway, another guy, I think his name was Jerry, been through this before. None of us can remember him because we only worked with him a couple times. Real good guy.
Yeah.
Rode a bike in. He used to work in Sons of Anarchy. Man even gave me a pack of small cigars from Sons of Anarchy, a souvenir.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool, which I still have here, Anyway, there were 4 of us, and Robert being the 4th. Once we were in makeup and wardrobe, and which, again, the first time, so it was an experiment, try this jacket on, try those pants, a little less under the eyes, a little more, on the forehead, or, whatever they were doing. Took a while to refine it. We'd met David Lynch earlier in the day, just briefly, when we all got there to base camp. We all said hello, shook hands. Then we didn't see him again for several hours. They were probably filming other things while we were doing all this. So when they took us out to the location, they pretty much waited till dusk before they took us to the location. And we sat in a trailer, whatever it may have been, with a snake wrangler, by the way, like by our side. They were out there with, looking for rattlers and such, so they would find us, Anyhow, so we get out there, we lined up, the 4 of us lined up, and I didn't know Sabrina yet. I mean, the only person I recognized was David Lynch,
Yeah.
So, but he came up, looked at each one of us, smiled. He was, pleased with what he saw. And he was always so nice and friendly anyway. He always looked you in the eyes, smiled, said hello, Anyway, he looked at us. He got to Robert, who was the last person in line, and he just said to him, "Can you say got a light?" He didn't say that to Christian or to me or just to Robert. So he asked Robert. Okay, he took Robert and Christian. First, he took them out. This was right at dusk. We're in the desert, where you kind of see the scenes where they kind of come up through the from the ground, or whatever, early on in part 8. Anyway, they filmed that before it was totally dark, but it was getting dark. So that was really a trip the way they did that. Waited until it was dark and then set up the rest of it. So that was day 1.
Yeah, and I didn't see, I was reviewing some of these and I didn't see you, but did you go?
You can't see me. No, You're not going to see me in that section of part 8. You see me in the other section of part 8, though.
Right.
When Ray shoots Cooper.
Yeah.
And you see all the woodsmen running through the forest. I'm there, and then you see some guys kind of circling around Ray. Yeah. While he's kind of, until he runs away. Well, I was one of those guys. So.
Nice. And I like the way they did that effect, because it seems like they're going around and
like
there's
transparent almost.
Transparent and duplicates, or I don't know. Yeah. It's a really cool effect that they did.
Well, it's David's a pretty imaginative guy. Yeah. But I will say that we, ran that through that forest more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that night, and yeah. So hey, listen, just to be there in part 8 twice. I mean, the part of the thing that was like, kind of blew up the world here for a minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. But I was, I was in part 2, then part 8, then part 11 on top of the stairs when Gordon Cole had his vision and saw the 3 bearded men on the stairwell. So I was on the top of the stairs in that scene. And then in part 17, when Lucy shot Cooper, and the 3 woodsmen came into the sheriff's office. So, which was maybe a total of 6 days of work for me, spread out from the end of October to maybe the end of March the next year. Yeah. So I wasn't there often, but it was always, the outfit, the wardrobe, all of that was always waiting for me.
And how long do you think it takes to get into wardrobe and makeup?
Well, like I say, after the initial time, the wardrobe was always waiting for me. So it was always the same clothes. All I had to do was put them on in the same order.
Yeah.
And then go into makeup, that could be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2, maybe even more times, depending on what they were doing and matching things. You didn't always have the same makeup artist. So the first time around, if they were happy with the way they had it, they, would take a lot of pictures and things, because maybe a month later, that particular makeup artist was, working on a movie in Europe. And, so it'd be somebody else doing it under the same supervisors, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, those supervisors, that was Debbie Zoller.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Richard, and God, I hate to blow Richard's last name, because I spent the most time with him in the truck,
Cool.
A hair truck and all that. But those guys were just up for Emmys for this show.
Yeah.
Because she did amazing, they all did a great job when it came to makeup.
Yeah. Well, hey, that was a big part of the magic,
Totally.
A big part of the magic. Also, so what I was kind of getting to earlier, too, is part of that. If I had a contribution, and I did, we all did, everyone did, but it was early on, as soon as I saw myself in the makeup and the wardrobe in a mirror, I just started looking for a character there, looking for something that worked. And I've been using my eyes for a long time, because you can't speak, right, as an extra. So you say a lot with your eyes at times. And, so anyhow, plus it keeps you silent. It keeps your arms from flailing around and, things like that. It just kind of works your eyes.
I'm glad you mentioned your eyes, because I feel like in the jail cell you did that, and maybe that actually inspired David to do the floating head. Because,
could be.
I think so. The more I think about it, I loved how you kind of always looked up in your eyes, and I wouldn't put it past Lynch to be in post looking at this and say his head needs to float away or something. But yeah,
well, someone sure came up with it. When people tell me that that was the most frightening thing.
Yeah.
that they'd seen, or knew that they were now watching Twin Peaks. It was like the first thing that kind of said it was a Lynch show to them, to some
Yeah.
people. And to me, I literally came out of my chair. I mean, I was rolling on the floor laughing, so hard, because it was the last thing in the world I expected to see.
Totally.
I mean, it still busts me up. So someone threw out a while back, fan theory, that almost the same idea, because of my eyes being like that, it inspired them to write the poem that Robert Brodsky read later on.
Oh.
But you know what? It's just a fan theory.
Right. I like it, though.
I'd like to believe that's true. Yeah,
White
I'd
of
like
the
to
eyes.
believe it, for my ego, if nothing else.
Right.
But yeah, so I thought maybe that's what you were going to say.
No, I was just taken by that you said you did things with your eyes, and I thought, boy, yeah, I remember seeing that jail cell and how your eyes would look up, and I said, I bet you David Lynch saw that and said his head needs to float away. It just seems like something that maybe you inspired him.
Could be. Yeah, well, that could very well be. I mean, it was my idea, the eyes.
Yeah.
The posture, the posing, all of that was pretty much him. The angle of the bed, everything I was sitting on, was pretty much him. But the listening with my eyes was pretty much me.
Totally.
People thinking that I was in part 7, because I was the only one that had been identified. That wasn't me. That was a guy named Gabrielle that disappeared walking down the hallway.
Yeah. I thought at first I thought that too.
Yeah. Well, that's what most people thought. It was even in Vox.com. Pretty reputable, publication. That was one of the few things that ever printed my name, but they were wrong too, because it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So finally by part 8, I'd probably been asked a couple hundred times if that was me in part 7. So after part 8, I just kind of took the liberty of saying, no, it wasn't. And then I said it was the same guy you just saw excising Bob out of Back 2. Well, the word excising, I just used it figuratively.
Yeah.
They did remove something from him, right?
Yeah.
So that's, you can use excise. Anyway, it came down as like Woodsman explains part 8 and it was on Reddit. I mean, it was like, so 2 days later, I got a call from Sabrina Sutherland, who again, I'd never heard from until, since the last day I worked, and I wouldn't have known who she was.
Yeah.
Really. Just part of the crew, I suppose, is what I would have thought. But anyway, she told me right then and there, be careful what you say and don't do any more of this until this show is over,
I was saying, yeah, and that's what she did for everybody. And I know they want to keep it a secret and they don't want anything, even though you weren't really saying anything, really, but...
Yeah.
Anything is something.
I mean, the whole thing, I mean, what she always said, and everyone does, keep the mystery alive. Right. So after that, there were ground rules. But honestly, I didn't need to know. I rarely need to know. Just kind of tell me what I'm doing, what the posture is. Let me, hear the scene. If you don't come up with something for me, I'll come up with something for me,
Yeah.
But in this case with David, it was always very much more precise. I mean, there wasn't that much left to your imagination. There was some, but from the posture, the way we came into the room in part 17, all of that was worked out, but what we were and why we were was never, ever discussed.
Now, after, Twin Peaks had aired and everything, did anybody recognize you on the street? Like, hey, I recognize you, but I just don't know where.
God, no.
No? Oh.
Never. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's happened now, but it's still really rare.
Yeah.
Back then, I'll tell you how unrecognizable I am. When they had the first pop-ups, which were last summer, or a year ago last summer, I guess, or maybe around this time a year ago. And they had these pop-ups here in LA and Hollywood. And they invited as many of the Twin Peaks cast that could make it, and a lot of us live, around here. So, and it was exciting for us, to be invited to anything. It was great for me. So, but we got there And, they asked us to kind of go mix in the line and just, talk to people in line and stuff. So Christian Calloway and myself, and you saw Christian quite a bit too in the show. He was, with Cooper, the bad Cooper early on in part 8 there. That's the first time you saw him. He also took care of crushing Bill Hastings' head, even though we didn't see that. We just kind of assume it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and maybe he didn't. But Bill Hastings was dead after Christian's scene. So I'm going to assume that Christian did. But it was the two of us. Oh, and he had other scenes besides. He walked Cooper up the stairs on his way to see Jeffries.
Oh, yeah.
So Christian and myself, that's kind of why we're, singled out along with Robert. Because you did see us more frequently. Anyhow,
I was going to say that you really are part of our community now. I mean, it's great to see that you've gone to the Twin Peaks Festival, and recently you were just at the Long Beach Comic Con, and now you've been doing other Comic Cons.
Just this weekend.
That's awesome.
I don't want to be disruptive, but you might see us somewhere else next month. So.
Cool. Okay, what's going on next month? There's a couple of things going on.
Disruptive.
Nothing is totally confirmed.
Yeah.
So
let's see. There's a UK festival. We have some other Comic Cons.
Disrupting.
Disrupting.
How
did I miss the?
He's in LA.
Hey, listen, it has been so exciting. I mean, first going to the Comic Cons was pretty exciting, but. That still wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, although I really enjoy being there. It's becoming my cup of tea. But going to the Twin Peaks Festival, oh my God, that was it was like being in Camelot.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been treated that way. And I don't know if you guys have been to North Bend. Have you been?
Last year.
We went the previous year.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I could have stayed there forever.
I know, it's beautiful.
Heaven. It really is like heaven.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks heaven.
I know.
Oh, jeez. Like I say, personally, I've never been treated like that, at all. And to have that kind of luxury treatment, have that many people endeared to you, want their pictures, signed things, and hang out with, so to me, it's very, it just doesn't end. That by far was, it was also a goal of mine, without campaigning for it or anything like that, but just hoping I'd made enough of a reaction, a wave that, maybe I'd get invited. And sure enough, they invited me, Christian. I mean, the Woodsman, I think the Woodsman in general were just the unexpected surprise.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. I've only seen David once since my last day of work, and that was at Paramount Studios a little while back for Q&A, a screening. They screened part 18. And then David, Kyle, and Laura Dern did a Q&A afterwards.
Wow.
So, and this was for all TV industry professionals. So it was a 4-year consideration screening for the Emmys. So that's the only other time I've seen David or Kyle. I met Laura Dern that night, but then had already known she was with us when we shot the parts of Part 8 that were... when Ray shot Cooper, apparently Laura Dern was there that night just working with David, hanging out with David. I didn't even know it. But she remembered seeing me there, so that was cool.
That's really cool.
And she was so nice. Laura Dern. Talk about Twin Peaks family.
Yeah.
So we all kind of posed for a picture together, except David. David was already gone. This was after the Q&A and screening. So the group of us, and Tammy was there as well. Tammy Baird, Christoph was there, Ike the Spike, and Adele Jones, Lieutenant, whatever lieutenant she was. So, and we happened to be, we weren't together. We were all individual guests of TV Academy members that were like friends. A good friend of mine has just been in the Academy for maybe a year, as a film composer. Yeah. So. Film and TV, that sort of thing. So that was so exciting because, those are also David Lynch's fans. They also become like little kids being in the room with David. And I've been in the room with McCartney, with other professionals.
Wow.
Every professional, editor, producer, director, camera operator, star. You get in the room with McCartney, you all become a little, teenager again.
Yeah.
All over again. Hey, I was almost that way with Ray Weiss the other day.
Oh.
I got to be next to Ray Weiss in Long Beach Comic Con.
That's awesome.
That, for me, was a win-win. Oh, God.
Seems like such a nice guy.
I love that guy. Yeah, and I just love everything he's in. Everything. I've never seen him in anything I didn't like him in.
I agree. I can't think of anything I've never not seen that.
I know. His part in Fargo was amazing.
Oh, yeah, it was. And you know what? Like I say, I'm a teenage girl. You better believe I asked him about it or told him how much I dug it.
Yeah.
His bowling alley scene in that. And so, yes, I did. I mentioned it right away. So many things, even the things that I was in a movie. Well, I saw the movie because I was in it, but it was called The Bronx Bull, which I don't even think we can see here in the States.
Huh.
It's second Jake LaMotta story, and it covers like before the Raging Bull and after Raging Bull.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with Raging Bull. It had nothing to do with Scorsese.
Huh.
I worked in it for one night, and I used a lot of stuff I did with Paul Sorvino. And Paul Sorvino is so much fun to be around. That guy will make anything fun. He starts singing opera in the middle of it. I just wanted to say Ray Weiss was in that movie playing a priest who was like training Jake LaMotta, first guy to get him in the boxing ring. And it's worth watching just to see Ray Weiss,
Yeah. So Stewart, you've got a new website, you've got a new podcast coming out. Can you talk about this new podcast?
Sure. Well, it's being called Into the Woods with Stewart Strauss, primarily because that's my name. And can't really use anything, that says Twin Peaks, Woodsman, or anything like that. Nor do I want to. I mean, I really do want to separate myself to some extent, from that world, and because there's other worlds I'm in. I love the music. Music is my first love, and so I plan on really featuring some people that not a lot of folks are going to know by name, but you, in the course of your lifetime going to concerts, have probably seen some of these people. You've heard them on records, you've seen them on TV. Usually, I'm talking about session players, road warriors, things like that. And composers, directors. Josh Eisenstat's agreed to come on, to talk about his filmmaking, not about his fandom as, for Twin Peaks, but I'll talk to Josh more as a filmmaker,
Awesome.
That sort of thing. So other friends of mine that, again, in the music industry, will talk about what it might be like, depending how willing my friend Scott Page is to talk about it. But he toured the world with Pink Floyd.
Wow.
That's huge in the rock world. You don't get any bigger, really.
Yeah. I think I'm looking at your website. He also did Toto and
Oh, yeah, Toto, Supertramp. Wow. He played with Seals and Crofts during their heyday of touring, which led to a lot of these other bands. But Scott played trumpet as a kid. His father was a session player, sax player, that played in the Lawrence Welk Orchestra. You used to see him every Sunday, and as much as maybe I might have hated that and the polka parade and things like that, that was a good gig for a musician. You fed a family and got to buy a house and, all of the above, back in the day.
And you'll have some of the Woodsmans on one of your shows? Oh,
hey, almost immediately. Robert and Christian. Well, Christian, by the way, Christian Calloway, is extremely busy right now. He's working a lot. He's also in the Jack Black, Cate Blanchett film that's coming out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The Clock Inside.
And
Kyle's in that, too.
Yeah, Kyle MacLachlan's in that, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Get to that. Yeah, Kyle is in it, and Christian has apparently, I can't say much, but Christian's in it too.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's, there's getting prepared for that premiere and those sort of things. But yeah, Robert was willing to come in last week, but we were just scrambling, to get ready for the Comic-Con.
Sure.
And as far as the website goes, yeah, I've been kind of doing double duty, although I had my website built, by a professional, hopefully, and did take a lot of my input in time. And almost at the same exact time, I've been setting up, a recording studio.
Nice.
So,
wow.
And so both things simultaneously were just more than I could really chew at the same time,
Yeah.
Because both have a learning curve. I mean, there's a, fairly serious learning curve. Anything.
For sure.
Do things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been tackling.
When do you think the podcast will be out? Like, when do you think that?
Probably, hopefully I'll be recording this week. John Puricello. Wait, listen, there's going to be lots of Twin Peaks connections. I do not want to say I'm going to go away from that.
Yeah.
If I talk to people maybe about another thing I worked on, people from I'm Dying up here.
Yeah.
Brad Garrett was there all last season. He was he made it fun every day. He was there to work, go to work. Whoever I can get in. Not that I can get Brad Garrett. But a lot of the guys you see at the Comedy Store here, that are at the Comedy Store, were also in that show.
Yeah.
I live about a mile from the Comedy Store now.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a multitude of folks I can get in. I'll probably do some music shows, just DJ, an hour here, an hour there. Just things that are fun. I kind of miss doing live segues.
Yeah.
And speaking of live, this is my other approach, because I did do a lot of live radio, mostly commercial. Instead of just doing all this through the web or through a digital device, through a computer, I also set up an actual mixer in the room so I can run other things. I can run several microphones. I can run a couple decks with music, preloaded. And very much run it like a live show and not have to edit later.
Ooh, that's nice.
Be able to do live segues and just do things spontaneously, because that's what kept me alive in radio. That was a passion. You couldn't get me to leave at the end of my shift. Even when I worked 5 days a week, 8-hour days. At midnight, I'd still have things I'd wanted to play, wanted to do. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of all these things and getting it going here pretty darn soon, like maybe this week. So Getting back to my first scheduled guest has been John Puricello, Deputy Chad himself.
Nice.
Chad. John, who, I've become friends with so many of these folks over the last year plus, and because that's just how it's been. It's just been amazing how we've all become family.
Yeah.
And that, like I was even getting to, I know I've kind of been rambling, I suppose. But Laura Dern, when I asked her for a selfie after a group picture, she says to me, "Of course, we're family now." And like she meant it, Everybody from Sabrina Sutherland to people that were on the crew, other, supporting actors, other background, whoever it is. We see each other maybe every month or two for a random dinner at a local restaurant, always someplace different, just for fun. Not that we're hiding from anybody.
Yeah.
Because believe me, no one cares. But we're just there to enjoy each other's company.
Nice.
And so, and then when we've had the pop-ups and now the Comic-Cons and whatever it may be, and of course the Twin Peaks, festivals. I mean, that was, hey, for me to get to meet Al Strobel, and Al, wish you the very best. The man had a heart attack, right?
Yeah, but I think he's doing well.
He's recuperating.
Yeah.
And, wish him all the best. So I got to meet Al and hang out with him a little bit, and Carl, these were people, I watched like everybody else, in original series, and I got to talk to both of them a little bit about how they learned their lines backwards and things like that, which is, that's quite a skill. Anyways, so that's just been so exciting. And I'll say, like, Ray Weiss with his Sherilyn Finn's been at a couple of these shows. Kimmy, I become friends with Kimmy Robertson now. That's I've awesome. Even, done like John has a little, private acting coaching and improv thing going on.
Oh.
So I've been at John's, improv group, hung out with them a little bit now. And, and John, by the way, is, in the cast of Barry, Bill Hader's show.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, and that is really a terrific show.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm behind, but I enjoyed it. It's a really funny show.
Oh, yeah. Well, so they're just getting ready to shoot season 2 is what he said this last weekend.
Oh, wow.
When you were at Long Beach Comic-Con, I love that you recorded some of it. So you see John, like you're going to table, and
cool.
You saw John, and then I think...
Yeah, that was fun. Especially, they had the little, C-3PO. Is that what that little guy's called? Or whatever the thing was from... The droid came up from behind me and hit the back of my leg.
R2-D2.
It was R2?
Yeah, I'm sorry, R2-D2. So he came up and hit me behind the leg, kind of surprised me,
Oh,
so
man.
that was fun. And of course going from table to table and not, just whatever someone was going to say or not say. And the things you didn't see were like, I went by, there was someone there from Game of Thrones.
Huh.
But as I went by his table, his handler agent said, no pictures.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you don't know who I am. I am the Woodsman. How dare you?
It didn't matter. But, hey, if I say I don't want my picture taken, I don't want my picture taken.
Right.
I mean, it's really
that's respect.
Simple.
Yeah.
So, you didn't see it. I respected it and just did a little snip before it. I wish I'd done that an hour earlier. You would have seen Sherilyn Finn.
Oh, I would have liked to have seen it.
But they were gone by that time.
Oh, yeah.
So.
We're so excited to see your podcast whenever it comes out. Listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it.
Hey, I'll certainly put links up to it or notices on all social media.
Yeah.
And for anyone that wants to know, StewartStrauss.net. StewartStrauss.com was already taken, so couldn't have that. It's StewartStrauss. I'll have whatever info up there. I've got a blog. I guess I wrote a little something maybe right before Long Beach. And I'll do a little recap there as well.
And how can people follow you, too? You're also on Twitter as well. How can people
Twitter and Instagram both as @StewStrauss. Just STEW. Forget the art part. I take care of the art myself. So. Anyway, Stu Strauss on both Instagram and Twitter. And I'll keep it posted.
Thank you, Stewart, for coming on the show. It was great talking with you. Fascinating guy. I mean, we could probably talk to him for hours.
Oh, I'm sure. Hours upon hours.
Yeah, a good guy.
Yeah, very genuine, very down to earth.
He really is right for podcasts. Like, I think his shows are going to be great because he's
long format conversation.
Yeah. And Perfect. He has a lot of interesting things to say, and he knows people, and I can't wait to check out his shows.
Yeah, and we will definitely let everybody know on social media when his first show lands. We'll definitely share that knowledge with everybody because it seems
if it hasn't already.
Yeah, who knows? He has things planned and what his webpage says and what you just heard. But we'll keep everybody posted. I'm excited. I will subscribe to it as soon as I see it available.
Yeah.
I'm waiting patiently.
And he's going to have other Woodsmen on with him. I can't wait for that show.
It's just Woodsman talking about Woodsman things. Yeah. So what'd you do today? I cut down a tree. What'd you do today? I hung out in the woods.
Right. And I believe his podcast is Into the Woods. I don't remember if we said that on the show.
Yeah, Into the Woods. All right, but if you got a comment, you got a question, you got a theory, give us an email at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. We'll be sure to answer on a future feedback show, but we appreciate all the email we get from everybody. And you can drop us a like or a follow on the good old Facebook and Twitter with Twin Peaks Unwrapped. Leave us a 5-star review at iTunes. Subscribe to us on iTunes. It always helps. It gets our show out there more. And we're also on Spotify. And if you're playing games, you're playing the new Spider-Man game.
Good game.
You can listen to Twin Peaks Unwrapped on Spotify.
That's awesome.
Which is really awesome.
Very cool.
And we're on Stitcher as well. So check us on Google Play. I always forget about Google Play. So we're on all those platforms. Also, the podcast is sent right to the YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you can listen to us there. And don't forget to support Twin Peaks Unwrapped with our TeePublic page. The link is in the show notes. Buy a t-shirt, buy a phone case, buy a mug for that loved one this holiday season. And the proceeds will go to supporting this podcast and keeping it online for years to come.
Thank you to everyone who's been supporting us.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And with all that being said, we'll see you next week.
These woodsmen are back here going around this one.
Okay.
You know, they're going around. This person, maybe all the doors are locked.
Okay.
And they're going around. So they're busy. This woodsman comes out like this and stops his car.
As this one's coming up,
yeah, he comes out like this. Whoa, like this, and it stops. Comes over. They get kind of mesmerized. They open up the door. His light comes on. Lightning shoots out. There's kind of some bright lights come up, and you see this face, and this man comes up, and not like a normal man, and he says, "Got a light?" And he's kind of like an alien, and so you start hyperventilating and start trying to scream and trying to build it up. Go away, you start saying, go away, and go like this to your husband, okay? And you can start screaming. You know, as it goes, and he's going to have the door open to see if this man needed help at first. And now he's going to start going crazy. Another one's going to come out, and you scream when that one comes out. He swerves and he misses it, and we're home free.
This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full, and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes, and dark within. This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full, and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes, the dark within. This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full, and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes,